We've got a swoon-worthy love story for you today. Let's jump in and tell us, what city are you watching from? The early summer shower had just passed, leaving Maple Street glistening under the late sunlight. Amid the crowded row of shops, a little cafe called Sunny Beans stood out. Not because of its signboard, but because of the buttery aroma of freshly roasted coffee drifting all the way down the street. Inside, a few regulars were chatting away. Old Mr. David was reading his newspaper, two college girls huddled over their laptops, and an artist sat sketching intently. The atmosphere was so cozy that anyone who walked in immediately felt wrapped in warmth, laughter, and the rich scent of coffee. Emma Carter bustled between tables, balancing a tray of steaming muffins. Her brown hair was loosely tied back, with a few messy strands falling across her forehead. But her smile was so bright it made everyone forget her clumsiness. "Mr. David, your coffee's without sugar today. Too sweet, and it might remind you of your ex." The whole cafe burst into laughter. Mr. David shook his head. "This girl's mouth is sweeter than 3 spoons of sugar." Emma shrugged. "That's how I keep my customers coming back." Just then, the door swung open. A tall man stepped inside, and the room seemed to pause. He wore a perfectly tailored black suit, a silver-gray silk tie, and shoes so polished that they reflected the light. His dark hair was neatly styled, his chiseled face as cold as if it had been sculpted, and his silver-gray eyes swept the cafe with quiet command. Even a single step radiated the kind of aura usually reserved for the covers of financial magazines. No one knew who he was, but even Mr. David set his paper aside to stare. The two students whispered, "Oh my God, he looks just like a K-drama CEO." Like? Even better. Emma was different. Tilting her head, she muttered, loud enough for the nearby artist to hear, "What, did he get lost, walking down from some runway?" She approached the empty table where the man sat and put on her professional smile. "Hello, what can I get you?" The man glanced at the menu for exactly 3 seconds. His voice was low, calm, yet commanding. "1 espresso, hot, no sugar." Emma raised a brow. Wow, the full-on cool guy act. She leaned forward, jotting the order with mock drama. "Got it. 1 espresso, hot like your personality and bitter like my life." The regulars chuckled. The man froze, just for a moment. No one had ever dared speak to him that way. Usually when he spoke, people either bowed or flattered him. But this girl, he frowned, ready to brush it off, yet the corner of his lips twitched, like he almost wanted to laugh but held it back. 5 minutes later, Emma set the espresso in front of him. He took a sip. The strong flavor spread across his palate. Good. Very good. He set the cup down, reached into his jacket pocket, then stopped. No wallet, exactly as planned. Adrian Blackwood, the young CEO of Blackwood International, one of the largest hotel groups in the world, had left his wallet in the car. A little test. He wanted to see how staff would react when a seemingly wealthy customer forgot his wallet. Fear, panic, or groveling. 10 minutes later, he looked up and calmly announced, "It seems I forgot my wallet." The cafe buzzed. A man dressed like a corporate tycoon forgetting his wallet? Didn't make sense. Emma planted her hands on her hips, staring at him. Her brain raced. If it were a regular, she'd just let them pay later. But this suited-up, polished man claiming he forgot his wallet? That was pure gold for teasing. She sighed theatrically. "Wow, that's rare, but don't worry. We've got a very humane policy here. Anyone who forgets their wallet washes dishes to pay." The cafe erupted in laughter. Mr. David even slapped the table. "Good idea." Adrian froze. A billionaire? Being told to wash dishes? Normally, one frown from him would have executives tripping over themselves to apologize. Yet this petite girl had the nerve to demand he scrub plates. "Me? Wash dishes?" he repeated, his voice dropping lower. "Exactly." Emma nodded firmly. "But fine. Looking at that suit, I doubt you've ever held a dish in your life. I'll lower the bar. Wiping tables will do. Think of it as a career experiment." More laughter broke out. One student whistled, and the artist even offered him a rag. Emma leaned on her hand, eyes narrowed playfully. "Relax, I won't deduct your pay. On the contrary, people might line up just to have you wipe their tables. Adrian studied her. Emma's brown eyes held no fear, only mischief, sparkling as though daring him. Do you dare? He should have been angry. He should have stood up and left, silencing the room. But instead, for the first time in years, something in his chest stirred, almost bursting into laughter. He pressed his lips together and cleared his throat. I will remember this policy. Emma beamed. Good, but next time bring your wallet, Mr. Cold. She spun away to continue working, leaving Adrian sitting motionless. The espresso still steamed, but the heat in his chest came not from coffee, but from the radiant smile of the girl who had just dared to challenge him. When he finally left, Adrian stepped into the luxury car waiting outside. His assistant opened the door, puzzled to see his boss faintly smiling, a sight almost no one at the company had ever witnessed. Adrian glanced at the rearview mirror. The little Sunny Bean sign faded in the distance, but her words still echoed in his mind. Forget your wallet, then wash dishes to pay. And for the first time, Adrian Blackwood, the man infamous for being cold and untouchable, wondered who on earth had he just met. The next evening, Emma traded her coffee shop apron for the crisp uniform of a hotel server. A neat white shirt, a simple black vest, her hair pinned up tightly. The night shift at the Royal Blackwood Hotel was always hectic. Wealthy guests attending banquets, staff darting back and forth like bees in a hive. Balancing a tray of glasses, Emma whispered to herself, the tips here are at least 3 times what I make at the cafe. Come on, Emma, one shift and you can cover the electric bill this month. She weaved through the tables, placed a glass of wine into a guest's hand, and quickly turned to leave. And then the air shifted. Conversations hushed. Heads turned toward the grand entrance. A man in a black suit walked in. His expression was icy, his steps commanding. The line of receptionists and managers bowed in near military unison. Emma nearly dropped her tray when she saw Adrian stride into the grand hall. The crystal chandeliers reflected off his suit, adding to his imposing aura. The other employees bowed deeply, but Emma's heart was pounding for an entirely different reason. Oh my God, the forgotten wallet guy from yesterday is actually Blackwood's CEO? The memory hit her instantly, pointing at him, teasing, forget your wallet, then wash dishes to pay. Blood rushed to her face. What if he remembered? What if he got angry and fired her? She'd basically told her boss, the CEO himself, to clean tables. Emma forced herself to stand tall, gulping hard, but her eyes couldn't help sneaking glances his way. Adrian's face remained composed, his expression cold, as though he'd never seen her before. Emma exhaled, half relieved, half annoyed. Maybe he really forgot. Fine, but to me, you'll always be Mr. Cold who forgets his wallet. Adrian walked past the line of staff, his gaze sweeping the room. As always, his expression was unreadable. But for just a fleeting second, when his eyes landed on Emma, his pupils widened. The coffee shop girl from yesterday. She was standing stiffly, face pale, yet her eyes still held that glint of mischief. For reasons he couldn't explain, it made the corner of his mouth want to twitch upward. Carry on with your work, his low voice echoed as he strode into the hall. Emma almost laughed out loud. Seriously, this guy deserves an Oscar. He forgot his wallet yesterday, and today he acts like we've never met. Fine by me, Mr. Cold. She turned away, muttering under her breath. Welcome, Mr. Cold, who forgets his wallet, to your very own hotel. Throughout the banquet, Emma thought she'd avoid Adrian. But life, of course, wasn't that simple. While she carried a tray of champagne past the tables, Adrian was engaged in a deep conversation with the shareholders. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted her, and though his lips continued to discuss business, his silver gaze followed her petite figure as she navigated the crowd with quick, graceful movements. Emma felt it instantly, like a spotlight burning into her back. She glared at the tray and muttered, Stare all you want, but don't think I've forgotten your little wallet incident, Mr. CEO. She rolled her eyes dramatically, straightened her back, and quickened her pace, leaving him to watch her go. Halfway through the evening, Emma slipped out to the corridor for a breath and to fix her hair. The glass door creaked open, footsteps echoed behind her, and before she could turn, a low voice spoke. "You work here?" Emma spun around. Adrian stood there, hands in his pockets, tall frame cast in the golden glow of the chandelier. Blinking rapidly, she forced herself to smirk. "Oh, Mr. Cold. Sorry, Mr. CEO. You still remember me? I thought you were rather forgetful." Adrian raised a brow. Anyone else would have been terrified, but her? She made it sound like a joke, and strangely, he found it amusing. Yesterday was a special situation. Emma crossed her arms, tilting her head. "Special enough to forget your wallet?" For the briefest moment, his eyes flickered, and in that instant, Emma realized the cold CEO actually looked flustered. The thought made her burst into giggles. "Relax, I'm not chasing you for the bill. Nobody's going to make the CEO wash dishes." Adrian looked like he wanted to reply, but a manager rushed over, calling him back to the guests. He gave Emma one last lingering look, then a small nod. As his figure disappeared through the door, Emma chuckled to herself, shaking her head. Mr. Cold who forgets his wallet, truly one of a kind. Her shift ended near midnight. Exhausted but grinning, Emma replayed in her mind Adrian's frozen reaction to her teasing yesterday. From now on, she'd keep her own private nickname for her new boss. Mr. Cold who forgets his wallet. What Emma didn't know was that, in the top-floor executive suite, Adrian Blackwood stood at the window, gazing over the city lights. And in his mind, only one image lingered: sparkling brown eyes, a carefree teasing voice, and a smile that, for the first time in years, made his emotionless heart feel warm. The banquet hall on the 18th floor of the Royal Blackwood Hotel glowed under warm golden lights. This wasn't a public press event, but a private reception reserved for a few major shareholders. Among them, Harold Whitmore, father of a leading investor, infamous for being demanding and sharp-tongued. Adrian had originally intended for his senior managers to handle the hosting, but just before the evening began, his cold voice cut through the air. "Carter, tonight you'll serve in the VIP section." Emma nearly choked at hearing her name. Her? Again? Good grief. Was Mr. Cold who forgets his wallet really trying to play games with her fate? Still, she straightened her uniform and stepped into the room. Well, if I have to die, better to die in a five-star hotel than a coffee shop. The atmosphere inside was thick with tension. The shareholders spoke in clipped, calculated sentences as if each word weighed in gold. Emma weaved through the sea of tailored suits, balancing a tray of wine glasses, forcing her face into calm composure. And then, the spark hit the fuse. Harold Whitmore, his hair white as snow, his narrow eyes scanning every detail with suspicion, fixed his gaze directly on Adrian. "Blackwood, you always claim your group prides itself on being approachable and human, but your staff, they seem sloppy and unprofessional." The room went dead silent. Some shareholders exchanged glances, clearly waiting to see Adrian embarrassed. Adrian remained steady, though his silver-gray eyes darkened slightly. He was about to respond when, to everyone's shock, Emma spoke up. Placing a glass of wine in front of Mr. Whitmore, she smiled politely, her voice calm and mature. "Sir, if I may, I'd like to say a word." The room stirred. A server, daring to interrupt? But Emma went on, unfazed. "You're right. I'm just a regular staff member, hardly polished. But that's exactly why I'm the one closest to the guests. I may not understand profit margins, but I know when a guest wants an extra napkin, less ice, or simply someone to chat with about the weather. And I believe sometimes human service begins with the little things like that." Mr. Whitmore raised his brows, caught off guard by such a measured response. Emma gently topped off his wine glass and added with a soft grin, "And as for being sloppy, if by the end of tonight you still think we're unprofessional, I'll gladly wash dishes for a whole week to make up for it." The remark landed with just the right touch of humor. Laughter rippled through the hall, easing the tension. Even Mr. Whitmore chuckled softly, his hard eyes softening. This young lady knows how to speak. Lifting his glass, he nodded. "Very well, I'll remember this. Blackwood, at least you've got staff who embody the human service you boast about. Seated nearby, Adrian's silver eyes never left Emma. He was accustomed to submission and silence from subordinates. No one ever dared intervene while he faced shareholders. Yet this girl had boldly intercepted a blow aimed at him, not only without losing points, but winning them flawlessly. After the reception, when the guests finally left, Adrian called Emma to stay behind. "Who gave you permission to speak for me?" His voice was low, cold, though not hiding the faint tremor beneath. Emma lifted her chin, meeting his gaze without flinching. "No one. But if I hadn't spoken, your evening would have been ruined over one grumble from a cranky old man. I simply saved you." Adrian froze. He should have been furious. Yet what he felt was something dangerously warm, as though a tiny slip of control had just been stolen from him by this small, fearless girl. And disturbingly, he liked it. Emma gave a small laugh, bowing her head. "Don't worry, I won't charge you for the rescue, but if you forget your wallet again, I might reconsider." With that, she spun on her heel and left, leaving Adrian standing motionless under the golden light, feeling for the first time in years powerless in an entirely new way. Friday night, the city was livelier than usual. Streetlights shimmered against the damp pavement after the rain, scattering golden-orange reflections. Emma had just finished her evening shift and slipped off the cheap high heels that had been tormenting her feet. The air was chilly, her breath misting in the night. Pulling her thin coat tighter, she hurried across a crowded intersection. Just then, a little girl, no more than 7, darted into the street, chasing after a rolling ball. Tires screeched violently as a sedan barreled forward, only a few meters away. Without thinking, Emma hurled her bag onto the sidewalk and lunged. She grabbed the girl, twisted her body protectively, and tumbled to the curb. The car screeched past, leaving the acrid stench of burnt rubber. Shouts rang out, pedestrians crowded around. The little girl sobbed in Emma's arms but had only a few scrapes. Emma's chest heaved as cold sweat beaded her forehead. "You're okay now, sweetheart. Just hold on to your ball tight next time. Don't let it run away again." Her voice trembled, but she forced a playful lilt to calm the child. The girl clutched her ball like it was life itself, nestling into Emma's chest. From the crowd, a tall man pushed forward, striding fast. His dark suit couldn't hide the tension in his frame. His silver-gray eyes were locked on the scene. Adrian. He had seen it all. The moment Emma had thrown herself into the street, time had frozen. A small, ordinary girl risking everything for a stranger's child. Reckless, instinctive, and braver than sense. Adrian crouched to check the girl, then looked up at Emma. His voice was low, deep, and cutting. "Are you insane? Running out like that? What if the car hadn't stopped in time?" Emma was still breathless, but her eyes blazed. She shrugged, wiping blood from her scraped elbow. "I didn't think. Just knew. I couldn't let her get hurt." He stared at her, his gaze complicated, a strange heat spreading through his chest. The girl's family rushed over, bowing repeatedly in gratitude. Emma smiled reassuringly, brushing it off. "It's fine. Just make sure she keeps better hold of her ball." When the crowd dispersed, Adrian remained. Slowly, he slipped off his coat and draped it over Emma's shoulders. "Come on, I'll take you home." Emma froze. The heavy coat carried the warm, expensive scent of his cologne, enveloping her completely. But immediately she shook her head. "No need, I usually walk. You've got bigger things to do." Adrian frowned. "I didn't ask if you walk. I said I'll take you home." Emma let out a soft laugh, her voice light but firm. "Mr. Blackwood, you can order your staff or your shareholders. But me, number I can manage on my own." She slipped the coat off, handed it back, gave a quick nod, and walked away. Adrian stood frozen in the street, watching her small figure merge into the crowd. The lamplight caught her high ponytail, her sweat-damp face still glowing. For a moment, the man who commanded absolute power had no idea what to do. Back in his car, Adrian sat in silence, staring at the city through the window. His mind replayed the image of Emma sprinting into the street, clutching the child. A man who lived by cold logic, calculations, and profit, shaken by one impulsive act of pure humanity. His grip tightened on the wheel. For the first time he realized, perhaps his life had been cold for too long. And maybe, just maybe, it was this ordinary girl who had made his heart beat in a way he had almost forgotten. Meanwhile, Emma returned to her tiny room on Maple Street, collapsing onto the bed in exhaustion. Her elbows stung, her feet throbbed, but her lips curled into a smile at the memory of Adrian's stunned expression. So Mr. Cold actually freezes sometimes, too. Turns out, he knows how to worry about people after all. She pulled the blanket over herself, murmuring, "Okay, Emma, don't overthink it. He's just a rich boss with ice-cold eyes, nothing more." But deep down, a strange, lingering heartbeat refused to fade. Night fell over Riverside Avenue, the glass windows reflecting the rush of evening crowds. Emma stood in front of Loeb, the restaurant where low-hanging candlelight looked like stars deliberately dropped within reach. She checked her watch. Exactly 7 p.m. The text had come 2 hours earlier. "I'd like to invite you to dinner, to say thank you," followed by an address. Short, direct, the style of a man who never needed many words to get what he wanted. The door opened, and a server led her past rows of gleaming silver and crystal. In the corner, Adrian was already seated. The warm light draped over his deep blue suit, carving patient lines across his face. When he saw Emma, his silver-gray eyes softened, so slightly that anyone else would have missed it. "Thank you for coming," he said. "I came for the truffle mushroom risotto, not for you." Emma slid into her chair, lips curling in a sly smile. He paused a beat, then laughed. Not the polite curve of his mouth she'd seen before, but a real, low sound startled out of him. She noted it instantly. His laugh was deep, like a cello note. The waiter poured wine. Emma swirled her glass slowly, breathing in oak and ripe fruit. Adrian watched, half curious, half amused. "You know wine?" he asked. "Not really. I just know good wine is like a good story, an inviting start, a rich middle, and a satisfying ending. Bad wine is like an email from finance." Adrian's eyes glinted. "Finance emails wounded you that much? They're cold, long-winded, and always make me want to run away. Kind of like the first time I met you." A breath escaped him, laced with humor. "I didn't know I was that terrifying." "Not terrifying, just too quiet. Quiet people usually have the most to hide." A flicker of shadow crossed his face. "Perhaps," they ordered. Conversation flowed like a river after rain, effortless without the grit of small talk. Emma told stories of her cafe mornings, the old man who bought a latte every day, but always left half untouched, just to save the smell for the afternoon. Adrian listened, occasionally dropping a single precise question that opened another branch of her tale. "What did you major in?" he asked as the appetizers arrived. "Communications. I like telling the stories of ordinary people through the extraordinary details, like the mother who hangs a scarf by the door to remind her son to take his raincoat. Every evening the scarf is wet, not from rain but because she washed it daily. You see things others overlook, and you see what others don't dare. Numbers, risks, greed." Emma rested her chin on her hand. "Funny thing is, those two still meet in the end. A hotel can't survive on marble floors and perfect smiles alone. It needs kindness behind the scenes." He said nothing. Monday meetings suddenly felt less solid. In the past hour, she had made him laugh 3 times and sit in silent thought 5, a record no one else had ever achieved. "Yesterday," his voice dropped, "if that car hadn't stopped in time—" "Don't say if." Emma set down her cutlery, steady gaze locking on his. "The child is safe. That's enough." For a moment, Adrian's cold facade thinned like morning mist. He sat back, as though admitting to himself that not everything could be controlled, and maybe that wasn't as frightening as missing it altogether. The main course arrived. Emma tasted a spoonful of risotto, closing her eyes in delight. Like a symphony written in rice. You should try it." "I thought you came for this dish, not for me." Adrian smiled slowly. "I came for the dish." She lifted her fork. "You're just the extra topping." He laughed again, the sound loosening something in his chest like a window finally opened. They talked about books. He favored works that dissected power structures, while she preferred novels with open endings because life doesn't stop on the last page. They talked about the city. He saw it from helicopters, she from sidewalks, and they laughed, realizing that from different heights, they still saw the same late light flickering out. When dessert was served, Adrian turned to the waiter. "Check, please." He reached into his inner pocket. One beat, two. His usually unshakable face cracked slightly. He searched again. Phone, keys, wallet, left in his desk drawer. Emma noticed. She didn't laugh, didn't tease. She simply looked up at the waiter. "Put it on my card, please." "Emma," Adrian's deep voice carried a rare note of unease. "I left it at the office. I'll transfer you right away." She shook her head, cutting him off with a gentle smile. "It's fine. Consider it my investment in a CEO. You can pay back tomorrow, with interest." "And what's the interest?" he asked, half joking, half serious. "Depends on how you repay it." She shrugged. He held her gaze longer than necessary. There was a kind of wealth he'd never owned. Ease. And somehow, she just lent it to him for a moment, like shielding someone else from a sudden draft. Outside, the river breeze was cool. On the sidewalk, a violinist played La Vie en Rose. Adrian offered to drive her home. Emma hesitated for half a second before nodding in agreement. Not because she needed to, because she wanted to. The car glided smoothly, the city rolling past like slow film. He kept his eyes on the road, then said quietly, "No one's ever invested in me like that. No one's ever let me see them forget their wallet like that. Call it even." Her voice was soft. They stopped on Maple Street. The cafe's lights were out, its sign faint in the dark. Emma opened the car door. "Thanks for dinner, and for listening. Not as a CEO, but as a man." He tilted his head. "I'm not sure I know how to be just a man." "You'll learn. Start by remembering your wallet tomorrow." She smiled, her eyes curving. The door shut. Adrian watched her cross the porch, her shadow stretching long under the street lamp. In his chest stirred something both foreign and familiar, strange in its fragility, familiar in how long he'd been waiting, to be seen beyond the reports. His phone buzzed. A text from Emma. "Here's my account for principal plus interest. Interest rate, 1 smile per day." Ha 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 ha. Adrian chuckled in the darkness of the cabin. He typed back, "I'll pay on time." Then paused, deleting, rewrote, "earlier than on time." That night, for the first time in years, he switched off Do Not Disturb, set the phone face down, and leaned back. The feeling of being looked after, even just for one dinner, didn't make him smaller. It pulled him closer to a version of himself he'd forgotten, someone who could be gentle, unarmored. On Maple Street, Emma let down her brown hair, the waves falling over her shoulders. She opened her window to let in the night breeze, smiling at the text she just received. Earlier than on time. Oddly enough, it sounded like a promise of more than money. Outside, the violin still lingered. Inside both their hearts, another melody began, soft, steady, needing no conductor. Monday morning, the staff area behind the Royal Blackwood's main lobby buzzed louder than usual. The espresso machine hissed, locker doors slammed, and, most unbefitting of a 5-star service standard, whispers foamed and frothed like steamed milk. Emma arrived 10 minutes early, changed into her uniform, and neatly tied her hair. The moment she stepped into the break room, she felt eyes sticking to her like post-it notes, curious, judgmental, with a trace of envy. In the corner, a group of receptionists hunched over a phone screen. On it, a short, shaky clip from the recent shareholder dinner. Emma speaking to Harold Whitmore, the room laughing softly, and, more importantly, Whitmore's rare approving nod. "Who is she?" "New staff. Works the bar shift." "No, she's the cafe server who transferred to nights." "Heard she even had dinner with the CEO last night." A throat cleared, followed by a verdict that rang like a jury's conclusion. The CEO's got his eye on the server. And just like that, rumors sprouted wings. Mia, Emma's friend from the bar team, slipped her an Americano and whispered, "Ignore them. These people live on gossip the way fish live in water." Emma took a sip and smiled faintly. "Then I'll just consider myself a good swimmer." But not every word went down so easily. Later, while Emma checked the wine stock, two banquet staff walked past, speaking just loud enough for her to hear. Crazy. Some of us work here for a year and never get noticed. She shows up and bam, special attention. Yeah, well, some people know how to draw attention better than others. Mia caught the flicker of pale across Emma's face and tried to tug her away. But Emma set the bottle down, turned calmly and spoke. Voice not loud but clear. If drawing attention means making the boss laugh at a dinner full of frowns, then yes, I did that. She shrugged, her brown eyes steady. At least I got him to smile. Can you? Silence. The two laughed awkwardly and shuffled off. Mia gaped at her like she'd just seen a karate move. That was clean. Emma smiled, though her heart still rippled. She could answer back, sure. But the echo of a cheap jab still lingered. Gossip had legs. It traveled faster than any elevator in the hotel. By 10 a.m., guests began to check in early. Emma moved to the lounge, serving tea for a group of Europeans. She worked at her usual pace, steady, unhurried, polite, but never servile. Across the concierge desk, Adrian walked with the operations director. Rarely did he step into staff corridors at this hour, but today he was inspecting post-event logistics. And he heard, in a hotel, walls may not have ears, but wooden floors remember. Along the back halls in the service elevators, outside the break room, words about Emma fluttered. CEO's favorite, knows how to talk, climbing too fast, and the one he despised most, voices dripping innuendo. Adrian stopped near the fresh flower display, his silver-gray gaze darkening. He hated when emotions were tampered with, and this morning, cheap stories had poked exactly where he didn't allow anyone. He recalled last night's car ride, the text earlier than on time, a light promise, even though he hadn't named it yet. But one thing was clear, it was not a promise to leave her adrift in a tide of pettiness. Call Doyle and all department heads for a meeting at 11, he told the operations director. HR 2. Topic, workplace culture. Is there an issue, sir? No issue. Adrian's lips pressed thin. Just boundaries. By noon, Emma climbed to the rooftop for air, Mia's packed lunchbox in hand. The city below boiled like a pressure cooker. Up here, the wind pushed through the safety mesh, tasting of metal and sun. She sat on an iron chair, opened the box, grilled chicken rice, and a note. Eat this, not the gossip. She laughed, swallowed a bite, then sighed. What exhausted her wasn't the mocking, but the choice between silence for peace and defiance for truth. Emma preferred the latter, but being right didn't mean it wasn't tiring. Lunch okay? The deep voice startled her. She looked up. Adrian stood a few paces away, white shirt sleeves rolled, tie loosened, the wind tugging at his shirt. Never had he looked less CEO than in that moment. It's fine, Emma nodded, closing the box. Thanks for asking. He hesitated, weighing words. This morning I heard things that weren't true. I've called a meeting on workplace culture. Here people are judged by their work, not by rumors. Emma met his eyes and saw something rare there. Guilt. She chose a soft smile. I can stand on my own, but thanks for putting up the fence before someone fell. Adrian nodded, his gaze never leaving her face. The wind loosened a strand of hair from her clip. He raised his hand, then stopped mid-air as if remembering a boundary. She tucked it back herself, smiling. All good. I won't let this morning repeat itself, he said quietly. This morning will pass. Emma shrugged. Rumors are like watered-down coffee. Easy to sip, but no one survives on it. I prefer espresso. The corner of Adrian's lips shifted. He seemed about to say more. Apology? Promise? But his phone buzzed. The 11 o'clock meeting. He only left her with one line. If anyone bothers you, tell me directly. Here, you're not alone. The rooftop door closed behind him, leaving only wind. Emma leaned against the railing, smiling faintly. She didn't need rescuing, but to be seen and respected in a place full of watchful eyes was grace enough. Oddly, it made her breathe easier. That afternoon in the back corridor, another brush. The same two staff muttered as Emma passed. Heard there's a culture meeting. Must have been someone making a fuss. These days, say a few pretty words and you're already climbing. Emma set her tray down, turned calmly, voice level as if taking an order. I'm not climbing. I'm working. When you manage to cut my workload in half, then you can talk. Laughter erupted from the nearby counter, this time not mocking. Mia slapped the table. Bullseye! By coincidence, or not, Adrian had just left the meeting room, standing in the shadowed corner. He heard everything. He didn't step out. He didn't need to. Emma's reply was exactly the culture he wanted. Direct, clean, no knives hidden in honeyed words. He turned down another hall, dialing HR. Revise the code of conduct. Add clauses on personal rumors and soft bullying. Training for all managers this week. And, he paused, then added clearly, start with Doyle's team. And now, that evening, Emma finished her shift and headed for Maple Street. A text buzzed before she turned the corner. Windy tonight. Walk safe. No name, no emoji. But she knew, short, like a period at the end of a sentence. Enough. She stopped under the street lamp typing, I'm fine. Remember to smile tomorrow. Then erased it. Wrote instead, thank you. See you tomorrow. Sent. Light as air. Across the city, Adrian read the line in his empty office, the glow softening the harsh light. He leaned back, realizing something almost laughably simple. He could sign 1,000 contracts without blinking, but today just one sentence from her. At least I got the boss to smile. Made him want to owe her that smile. Every single day. He couldn't let her stand alone. Not for honor, not for policy, but because, for the first time, he wanted to stand with someone outside his world. Someone he didn't need to step over to keep moving forward. Outside, the night closed gently. Rumors hushed. And in the quiet stretch between two ends of the city, something small began to take root. A man learning to smile, and a girl learning to believe the smile wasn't for the crowd. Still following the story, if this story found you outside of Soul Stories, we invite you home, to where every touching tale begins with truth, hope, and heart. The invitation read, Aurora Gala Autumn Charity Ball. Venue, the glass atrium atop the Royal Blackwood, where the entire city stretched below like a glowing map. Emma stood before the mirror in a borrowed black evening gown, ankle-length, strapless, fabric flowing soft as an unspoken promise. She'd refused the stylist Adrian sent, as well as the glittering PR wardrobe. Instead, she borrowed a dress from Mia and did her own makeup. Little but enough. Plum red lips, thin eyeliner. Go as yourself, she reminded herself. No one else can wear your poise. The elevator opened. The glass atrium sparkled like a constellation. Gowns, diamonds, laughter pitched higher than natural. From across the room, Adrian approached in a black tuxedo. The light bounced off satin lapels, sharpening the frost in his silver eyes. But when he saw Emma, that frost melted by a degree. You're here, he said, voice low, slow, as though speaking too firmly might shatter her. I came for the cheese buffet. Emma's lips curved. You're just the backdrop. He laughed softly, dipping his head. A passing manager froze at the rare sound, then slipped back into the crowd. Emma wandered the sea of gowns like walking through a jewel exhibit. Every step was a story of lineage, power, and networks. She didn't flinch. She observed. That woman's smile didn't reach her eyes. That man sipped champagne like counting shares. A few eyes skimmed her dress, assessing its lack of label. Emma lifted her glass unbothered. Being out of place only hurts when you try to hide it. Emma Carter, isn't it? A woman's voice glided in, velvet lined with knives. I'm Vivian Sterling. Adrian's ex. The name carried a chill ahead of her. Vivian wore a silver crystal-studded gown, neckline lower than necessary, smile sharp as a diamond cut. I've heard quite a bit about you. Vivian tilted her head. Impressive, really. After us, no one's held Adrian's interest for long. He stayed single since me. Understandable, of course. United States. Emma set her glass on a passing tray and met her gaze. Congratulations on being his life lesson. People pass through each other to learn something, don't they? Vivian blinked. Her smile didn't falter. but her eyes shifted. They flicked from Emma's shoes to her unbranded gown. And you think you're what exactly? A friend at present. Emma's tone was calm. And friends aren't measured in carats. Vivian chuckled softly, like applauding a juggling trick. Then she leaned closer, whispering, "Careful. In rooms like this, kindness is easily crushed beneath expensive heels." "That's fine," Emma shrugged. "I wear soft shoes." The exchange ended as the crowd parted like water. Adrian approached, steady pace, hands settling lightly on Emma's back. Just enough to say, "I'm here." He turned to Vivian. "As sharp as ever tonight, Vivian." "Just enough not to be bored." Her smile curled like smoke. "Still alone, Adrian? Since our breakup, no one's lasted more than a month, isn't that right?" Heads turned. Murmurs spread as quickly as spilled perfume. Emma felt Adrian's chest tense faintly. He could ignore it. He usually did. But tonight, he faced the crowd fully, his voice level, microphone clear without a mic. "I'm not alone." His hand pulled Emma closer. "This is my girlfriend." The air froze as if someone had unplugged the orchestra, eyes pinned down on them. Vivian's lips tightened, though she still smiled. The smile of someone retreating one step only to plan tomorrow's strike. Emma felt the words wash warm over her. Then the tide of clarity. Girlfriend. Heavier than any diamond glittering around them. She looked up. Adrian leaned down. The kiss wasn't dramatic, wasn't staged. It was quiet. A statement. His lips brushed hers. Brief, soft, yet deep enough to erase the whispers, long enough for his hand to slip from her back to her waist, tracing a curve he hadn't allowed himself to hold. Champagne, cedarwood, and something unnamed mingled in the air. A shutter clicked, then another. "Blackwood has a girlfriend. Who is she?" "She looks familiar." Headlines flashed in the crowd's eyes. Adrian pulled back first, not out of hesitation, but as if asking silently, "Are you okay?" Emma's eyes answered, "I'm fine, but don't make me your shield." Their wordless conversation lasted 2 seconds. Vivian adjusted her necklace, smiling politely. "Congratulations. Truly, Adrian." She flicked Emma one last, needle-thin glance, then melted back into the crowd. Music resumed. Voices swelled like waves after the wind. Adrian inclined his head. "I'm sorry." The rare apology slipped cleanly from his lips. "I didn't want you to feel used. I don't like being someone's gag order." Emma's voice was even. "But I'll stand by you if it's a choice, not a reflex." For a heartbeat, his mouth nearly curved. "It's a choice. Then tonight," Emma exhaled, gripping her glass instead of his hand, "we'll play the boyfriend-girlfriend part to the end. Tomorrow we talk like adults." "Agreed." Adrian nodded, solemn as signing an addendum. His hand stayed on her back, guiding, not claiming. They moved through knots of guests sniffing for fresh gossip. Adrian spoke with the fund chairman while Emma chatted with his wife about an art scholarship program for children. She didn't fake knowledge, just asked the right questions at the right time. When an investor blurted, "You work at the hotel." Before that, a cafe? Emma smiled. "Yes, and I still make a cappuccino prettier than most served here." Laughter rippled, smoothing the edge of prejudice. On the glass terrace, night wind poured into the gala. The city below blinked like an inverted star map. Emma leaned against the railing, inhaling deeply. Adrian stood beside her, one hand's width away, the space holding both respect and pull. "Earlier," he said, eyes still on the skyline, "I didn't deny it for anyone else, you know that?" "I guessed." Emma tilted her head. "But guesses aren't enough. Tomorrow you'll say it clearly. Tonight?" She smiled. "Take me for dessert, somewhere with fewer cameras." He looked at her, laughter flickering in his eyes. "Consider it done." They turned back inside. A photographer aimed his lens. Adrian subtly shifted, blocking half of Emma's face, instinctively shielding. The crowd's narrative had begun. Blackwood reveals his girlfriend, the CEO's mysterious woman. But inside their own story, smaller and slower, another truth was forming. If you name it right. If you hold hands, hold them because you want to, not because you have to prove something. At the night's end, as they left the atrium, Emma paused at the glass threshold, facing him. Adrian. Yes? That kiss, she searched for words, was beautiful. But the best part isn't that everyone saw it. It's that when the doors close, we can still tell each other the truth. He nodded. Tomorrow. The elevator doors shut, reflecting two figures side by side. Not too close, no longer far. Below, the city still glittered. Up here, news had exploded. And in the quiet place inside each of them, something had lit, not because of diamonds, but because of a simple introduction. This is my girlfriend. The next morning, Emma studied her reflection in the mirror of the old cafe, where she had picked up a short shift. Under the gentle light, she was still the same Emma. Hair tied high, plain white blouse, a latte in hand. But the mirror betrayed what she couldn't hide. Eyes clouded with thoughts from the night before. The kiss, Adrian's lips on hers in front of hundreds. For a moment, the world had stopped, but back in her small room with only the creak of a ceiling fan, Emma realized her trembling wasn't only from emotion, but from doubt. That kiss. It was a shield, a move to silence an ex's mockery. Not for her, for him. By afternoon, Emma returned to the Royal Blackwood. The hotel buzzed louder than usual. Tabloids had already splashed headlines. Blackwood CEO reveals girlfriend at Aurora Gala. Photos of Emma in the black gown beside Adrian spread across social media, captioned with half admiration, half scrutiny. The billionaire's mystery lover. From cafe waitress to CEO's girlfriend. Passing by, she caught whispers. She's just a prop. No, look at the hand-holding. It's real. But someone like her... Mia rushed over, trying to block Emma's view of a phone screen. Emma only smiled faintly, voice calm. It's fine, I'm fine. Inside, she wasn't fine at all. Adrian was in a meeting when Emma arrived. The moment he saw her through the glass, he set his pen down and signaled his assistant to delay 10 minutes. He stepped out, composed as always, but his eyes carried something different, a trace of hope and hesitation. You came. His voice was low, as though trying to draw her closer. Emma met his gaze. The space between them wasn't just physical, it was deeper. I came to ask, she said slowly, last night's kiss. What did it mean? Adrian faltered. He wanted to say, I wanted it, but pride stopped him. A CEO didn't admit to losing control. Instead, he chose a colder truth. It was necessary. Emma gave a soft laugh, sharp at the edges. Necessary? For you, right? So your ex couldn't mock you, to keep your pride intact. Her eyes shone, but with chill. You live in a different world, Adrian. A world where a kiss is just a move on the power board. But to me, it's not a game. You can't understand what it feels like to be pulled in without a choice. Adrian's fist clenched. That kiss to him had been anything but a move. But confronted, cornered, his pride surged. You're right. His words dropped cold, heavy. We don't live in the same world. The air froze. Emma's lips trembled, though no tears fell. Silence thickened around them. Thank you for admitting it, she said quietly. Then I'll keep my distance. She turned away. From that day, Emma avoided him. At the hotel, she chose dawn or late-night shifts to minimize her chances of crossing paths. When she had no choice but to meet him, she was formal, measured. A nod, a short report, then gone. No gaze, no smile. Adrian watched. The closer he tried to step, the more he crashed against the wall he himself had built with those reckless words. We don't live in the same world. He remembered her pulling the child from traffic, her boldness before Whitmore, her small smile when she'd said investment with interest. Those had reached him. No world between them. Now there was only emptiness. One evening, Adrian's car rolled down Maple Street. The little cafe where Emma once worked mornings was still lit. She stood behind the counter, tying her hair, making lattes for regulars. He pulled over, slipped inside, and sat at the farthest corner, watching her laugh with Mr. David as if nothing weighed her down. She set a latte before him. No questions, no teasing, no playful jabs. Just one short line. Here you go. And she walked away. Adrian stared at the foam heart trembling on the surface. He had never tasted coffee so bitter. Not because of the beans, because for the first time, he understood a kind of loss money couldn't buy back. Night fell. Emma lay on her narrow bed staring at the ceiling, his words cutting through her mind like glass. We don't live in the same world. She wasn't weak. She had never been. But for the first time, her strength itself felt exhausting, because the more she avoided him, the more her heart refused to obey. Across the city, Adrian sat sleepless, gazing out the skyscraper window. If their worlds were truly different, why did silence feel like losing half of himself? The distance had formed, sharp, cold as glass. But behind it, both of them knew. Their hearts were still beating, wild and unconfined. A week after the glittering gala, Emma still kept her distance. Each time Adrian appeared at the hotel, she skillfully slipped away, leaving only brief greetings behind. The kiss beneath the eyes of hundreds lingered with her, but it made her feel like she'd been pulled onto a stage that wasn't hers. He belonged to glass halls, billion-dollar deals, and handshakes heavy with strategy. She belonged to laughter with children, to sketching rainbows on paper. The more she thought, the clearer the distance became. That weekend, Brooklyn Park thrummed with the Sunlight Project, an event for underprivileged kids. Emma had signed up as a volunteer weeks ago. She wore a plain white t-shirt, old jeans, her hair tied back, and immediately blended into the whirl of children. She sat cross-legged in the grass, carefully fastening paper wings to a little boy's back, singing and making superhero motions. The kids' laughter rang out across the park, mixing with the honey-gold afternoon light. At the park's edge, a tall figure stood still. Adrian. He knew Emma would be here. An assistant had casually mentioned her name on the volunteer list. At first, he hadn't planned to come, but in the end, his heart had overruled logic. He stepped in, but didn't intrude, just stood at a distance, watching her. And then, he froze. Emma was nothing like the woman beside him at glittering parties. Here she was herself, cheeks smudged with paint, hair undone, laughter carried by the breeze. Ordinary, and yet somehow she lit up the entire park. Adrian, who was used to wielding power to command attention, suddenly realized, before Emma, he didn't need orders or control. Just standing still, he was already caught in her orbit. A little girl tugged at Emma's hand. "Miss, can you draw me a really big sun?" Emma smiled, picking up a yellow crayon. "Of course, but if your sun is big, it has to shine for all your friends too, okay?" "Yes," the girl squealed, eyes wide. Watching Adrian felt something foreign stir in his chest. Admiration, longing, and fear. Fear that one day she'd step completely out of his world, leaving him behind in cold, empty rooms. When the event paused for a break, Emma stood wiping sweat from her brow. Suddenly, her eyes met Adrian's. Both froze. The air thickened. "What are you doing here?" Emma's voice was low, edged with caution. Adrian stepped closer, stopping at a respectful distance. "To see you, where you belong." Emma tightened her grip on the roll of paper in her hand. "And you think just standing here, watching, will make our worlds merge?" Adrian didn't answer right away. His gaze fell on the children behind her. Then softly, "Number? But at least I can try stepping into your world instead of dragging you into mine." Emma faltered. The words made her heart skip a beat, but her mind remained taut. She turned back to the children. Adrian didn't follow. He simply stood still, his eyes tracing her every move, his chest tightening with an unfamiliar ache. By sunset, Emma slung on her backpack, ready to leave. Adrian was still there, tall frame haloed in the fading light. He didn't approach. He only stood where she could see, proof he had truly come, not as a CEO, but as a man who wanted to be near her. Emma walked on, heart quietly unsettled. The distance was still there, thin as thread, yet impossible to mend in one pull. Adrian watched her fade into the crowd, and for the first time in his life, he understood. Some things can't be owned. They can only be held, gently, with all the sincerity you have. The lobby of the Royal Blackwood still carried the scent of lilies and echoes of music after the charity event. Outside, the press buzzed with noise. But in a small conference room, only Adrian and Emma stood face to face. Silence filled the space, as though all sound had been locked behind the door. Emma crossed her arms, gaze steady but wary. Adrian, the man who never flinched signing billion-dollar deals, was now clenching his fists until his knuckles turned white. He drew in a deep breath. "There's something I need to tell you, even if it makes you hate me more." Emma frowned. "I'm listening." Adrian stepped forward, voice low, stripped of arrogance. "I never actually forgot my wallet. It was a test, a stupid experiment I thought I could control. I wanted to see how a stranger would react to an inconvenience, but I didn't expect to be undone by you in that very moment." Emma's eyes widened. Her heart tightened, partly from anger, partly from relief. The wall she'd built over the past weeks trembled. "And what exactly are you saying?" Her voice caught slightly. Adrian held her gaze, dropping every shield. "I'm saying that the moment you laughed and told me I could wash dishes to pay my debt, I knew I was finished. That so-called test became the first crack, and everything after that, I couldn't control anymore." Emma let out a short, incredulous laugh, torn between irritation and amusement. "A CEO, really? Using a forgotten wallet as a character test? Did you think life was some lab experiment?" He winced faintly but didn't defend himself. "I was wrong, but the kiss at the gala, that wasn't about saving face or silencing someone else. It was real. I wanted it. I wasn't calculating, Emma." The room went still. Emma searched his expression, looking for the familiar flicker of polished deceit she associated with men of his world. But in those gray eyes was only sincerity. Clumsy, vulnerable, startlingly real. She chuckled softly, shaking her head. "I don't know if I should scold you for being arrogant or pity you for being so awkward. Maybe I'll give you a point for at least admitting you were a fool." Adrian's brow furrowed, then unexpectedly he laughed, a rare deep sound, not polite, not rehearsed. Emma exhaled, slipping her hands into her pockets. "All right, I haven't forgiven you completely, but I'm tired of avoiding this. Let's see if we can at least talk like two normal people." Adrian nodded, his eyes softening noticeably. "Normal, that's what I want to learn." A warm pause filled the room. No taut strings, no cutting words. Just two people, daring to take one small step toward the truth. Emma squinted playfully. "But you still owe me a lot." Adrian tilted his head. "I'll pay it all. I'll take your word for now." She smiled, and this time, she didn't avoid his gaze. When Emma left the room, Adrian remained, letting his breath even out. He had finally confessed what he'd hidden all this time, in the clumsiest yet most honest way. Strangely, it lifted a weight from him, and as Emma walked down the bright hallway, her shoulders felt lighter too. Yes, he was a fool, but at least he was a fool learning how to be honest. After all the clashes and distance, a door had finally cracked open between them, and light was beginning to filter in. Saturday morning, Maple Street glowed golden, as though sunlight had been poured like honey. Sunny Beans opened early. The bell on the old wooden door chimed its familiar note. Mr. David was already at his usual spot, grumbling for less sugar or I'll start missing old flames. From behind the counter, Mia winked at Emma. "Beautiful day today." Emma tied her apron strings. She had lived through days like storms, the media noise rising and fading, work finding its rhythm, the charity project gaining traction. Amid all of it, one small but steady change stood out. Adrian now spoke the right language. He sent short messages, not orders, not decrees, simple words like, "Did you sleep enough?" or "It's hot today, bring water." That plain, ordinary language, oddly enough, paved the way to peace. The bell chimed again. Adrian walked in. He wore a white shirt, sleeves neatly rolled. No tuxedo, no entourage. Just a man stepping into a cafe on a small street. The room stilled for a beat, then resumed. People were used to seeing him sit by the window, read the paper for 15 minutes, and leave quietly with a smile. Emma looked up, their eyes meeting, soft as an autumn river. "What will you have?" she asked, professional with a trace of mischief. "An espresso, hot, no sugar." He smiled. And if possible, 1 minute alone. Mia, quick to catch on, swung a reserved sign onto the long window table. Mr. David waved his paper. Go on, I'll finish the sports page. Emma set the espresso down in front of Adrian. The steam rose, dark and smooth. But Adrian didn't drink. Instead, he reached into his pocket and placed a leather wallet, polished brown, familiar, right in the center of the table. This time, he said slowly, eyes fixed on hers, I didn't forget my wallet. The cafe hushed, as if someone had hit pause. Adrian opened it. Inside were no platinum cards, no thick bills, only a small ivory box. He lifted it, flipped it open. A platinum ring nestled inside, a modest, round-cut diamond glinting like dew caught in sunlight. Emma had never cared for jewelry, but in that instant, something shone brighter. The way he looked at her, direct, warm, with no glass between them. Adrian rose. No theatrics, just half a step back, one knee lowered onto the wooden floor, worn smooth by customers' footsteps. Emma Carter, he said, and for the first time his voice trembled. I've walked too long through cold rooms. You pulled me into the light. You taught me to smile on time, to tell the truth when I almost lied, and to stand beside the person I respect. Today, right where it all began, I want to ask, will you go with me? Not into my world or yours, but into the world we'll build with our own hands? Mia covered her mouth. Mr. David tapped his spoon on the glass like a drum roll. Sunlight streamed through the windows, spilling across the table, the ring box in Emma's brown eyes. She inhaled. Part of her wanted to laugh. Another part wanted to cry. All the rushed months, the clashes, the misunderstandings, the steps apart and back together, collapsing into this moment. Are you sure? She teased, eyes glistening. I talk too much, laugh too loud, and drag people to volunteer at 6 a.m. I'm sure. His answer came quickly, surprising even himself. And I know how to wash dishes. Emma laughed through her tears. She reached out her hand. Yes. Applause erupted like the first fireworks of the season. Mia leapt and hugged Emma before darting back to the counter, shouting, free champagne. Wait, no champagne here. Fine, free cappuccino with hearts. Mr. David wiped his eyes, hiding them by adding another spoonful of sugar. Adrian slipped the ring onto her finger. Not too tight, not too loose. Just right, like the way they had learned to stand beside each other. Not to possess, not to let go. He rose. They embraced in the small cafe, surrounded by the scent of roasted beans and the sound of laughter. Outside, the city hummed, but in this wooden room, warmth had been sealed. That evening, they sat on the cafe steps, Emma's shoes brushing Adrian's. They didn't need many words. Mia popped open sodas, clinked cans in place of champagne. Messages of congratulations flooded Emma's phone. Co-workers, friends, mothers from the Sunlight Project. Reporters sniffed for headlines, but the cafe door stayed shut to cameras. That was Adrian's deal with the owner. Tonight was private. Have you thought of a name for the new foundation? Adrian asked, voice light. What about Bean to Dream? Emma rested her chin in her hand. From one little coffee bean to a big enough dream. It rhymes a bit, but it's easy to remember. I like it. Adrian's smile reached his eyes. The foundation will fund mini libraries in rural hotels, community centers, art scholarships, and I have someone in mind to run it. Who? Emma Carter, the lively powerhouse who drags CEOs out of bed to deliver books at sunrise. Say lively one more time and I'll demand a raise. She shot him a mock glare. But fine. Deal. They planned like partners drafting a new project. Budgets, local partners, and ensuring the money reached the right hands. When Emma suggested placing a take red return shelf in the hotel lobby, she laughed. Put it by the concierge desk. Let's hope people return books on time. Or, like certain people, return them earlier than on time. Adrian tilted his head. I'm already paying interest daily, aren't I? Emma pretended to weigh it. Acceptable repayment terms so far. He looked at her as if the world had just found a new rhythm. The dominant CEO was still there, decisive, precise. But beside Emma, that dominance had learned gentleness, asking before holding her hand, shielding cameras instead of flaunting, stepping back so she could step forward with the children. People called them the CEO and Cinderella. Adrian only smiled. Emma had never been Cinderella. She hadn't waited for magic, she was the magic. Months later, the first mini library opened in a coastal hotel's hallway. Low wooden shelves at child's height, marked with a sign, "Take, read, return." Next to it, a box of crayons, stacks of paper, and a small map marked the location of the new community playground the foundation had funded. Emma crouched, sticking smiley face stickers onto the shelf. Children swarmed like bees to honey. A boy clutched a comic book. "Miss, can I take this home?" Emma ruffled his hair. "Of course, as long as you bring yourself back tomorrow too." Adrian stood nearby, slipping first reader cards into each child's hand. That afternoon they returned to Maple Street. Sunny Beans was busier than ever. Mr. David raised his cup. "To the two of you. Half for love, half for good coffee." Mia teased, "And half because your foundation's going to need a finance manager. Hire me." Under the table, Adrian squeezed Emma's hand. Not to show off, just to hold. He leaned closer, voice low. "Thank you for saying yes. Thank you for learning to slow down." Emma's eyes curved. "One day I'll run fast again," Adrian said, shrugging. "But only if you run with me." "Deal." She clinked her cup against his, porcelain chiming. Outside, dusk fell like a soft scarf. Inside, laughter and the scent of fresh coffee mingled with their new happiness. The old brown wallet sat on a high shelf, now a keepsake. Inside, no money, only a Polaroid. Emma beaming with a book in hand, Adrian watching her. The look of a man who had finally mastered the hardest lesson. The story closed in laughter, just as it had begun. From one forgotten wallet test, they had found a lifetime together. Not through magic, but because they had chosen to become each other's little piece of magic every day.